Greetings from chilly, chilly, chilly Hanoi, Vietnam. So the big news right now is that Trump has declared Jerusalem the capital of Israel. And this has infuriated a lot of Muslim groups, and it's created a lot of political discussion and controversy and fears about war breaking out over this this foreign policy move made by Trump. But I think it's very it's very appropriate for Donald Trump, and it's very in league with his foreign policy in general, what we've seen. And I'd say it's very bold, and I'd say it's a good thing. Although it is mostly, from what I understand, a symbolic gesture. To what extent does it matter if we call Jerusalem the capital and Israel calls Jerusalem the capital if no other nation on earth does? And if they insist on keeping their embassies in the same place, I mean, it's really not going to make much of a difference at all. It is showing some strength with Donald Trump's foreign policy. And it's showing that something is going on with the Saudis right now. I think there's a lot of change going on in the Middle East, and that it does look like some kind of four-dimensional chess, as is often said. So I wish him the best of luck, and I'm not too worried about it. Ben Shapiro said something brilliant. He said the problem is not with Arabs that go over onto the Jewish side. They live peacefully. They're able to go about without needing any protection. It's Jews that go over to the Palestinian side. And I'm not sure about tourism there. I mean, I have never been there, and I've never known anyone who's really spent time there. At least one or two that visited, maybe, in all my travels. I wanted to go. I've always wanted to see the Holy Land, and the problem is that having that nasty Arab visa in my passport. But that says something. The fact is, you know, even with the Arab visa in my passport, I can still go to Israel. However, if you have an Israeli visa in your passport, you are not allowed entrance into Saudi Arabia. So if I ever did get one, I would have to wait until I got my next passport in order to hide from it, which would only take a few years anyway. That's the thing with these Saudi Arabia bans. Being near the end of one right now, I can say that they don't really last that long, and they're not really that strong. I'm not too worried about not being able to get back into Saudi Arabia for a while. At the same time, I would like to go to see Israel with their new capital of Jerusalem. But this leads me to my next point, which is eventually going to take us all the way back to this part of the world and Japan. But this is moving on to Saudi Arabia, where there was an interesting post about a controversy regarding Sophia, the first, I guess, android or robotic human being, and the controversy that she has more rights than Arab women. And unlike Arab women, she is not required to wear covering. She can be in the presence of any man. She has fundamentally more rights than the Saudi women, which I just find shocking. But it might be a step in the right direction. As I've said before, women are getting more rights in Saudi Arabia. Not long ago, they weren't able to drive or vote, but that is changing. So hopefully, robots will help the cause of women's rights in Saudi Arabia, because I'm not really sure what else can, as long as they have that arcane philosophy, that arcane Wahhabist doctrine, which is thankfully less oppressive than what they've got in Iran. So, and that's the Shia. So, and they're the ones issuing the fatwas and all that, and that's of course changed. Of course, I'm old enough and I've read enough about it to know about what was going on in the 80s with what happened after the Iranian Resolution, and then the international murders, homicides over Salman Rushdie and the Satanic Verses. And back when the cause of feminism in the West was to side with the women in Tehran who were protesting having to wear hijabs. It was a mouthful of hopefully correctly pronounced words. Okay, so robot rights, that's one thing to consider, but you could say, oh, well, it's just a robot in Saudi Arabia, who really cares? Well, the fact is, we're on the verge of having technocracies, and one already kind of exists in a semi-developed state in the nation of Japan. Because the young people have turned to lives of solitude, refused to get married, refused to have children, lost themselves in online games and in pornography and in just becoming workaholics, being celibate, not really interacting with anyone at all. Because of that, the population has plummeted, and unlike any other country, there are a few countries, but one thing that sets Japan apart is they don't allow immigration, really, and that's why they don't have a problem with Muslim terrorists or anything like that. They are very selective with their incoming, and even with American evangelism, as Franklin Graham pointed out to me, there's still just a very small percentage of Christians, evangelical Christians at least, living in Japan. But thanks to technology and thanks to their advanced robotic systems, they have developed machines that care for the elderly in nursing homes that are no longer the arcane forklift-style machines like something out of the Aliens movie, but instead machines that have soft plastic skin almost, and heat, and are loving and seen to represent humans and have these faces, human in the sense that like anime faces are human, kind of human robotic faces. And you also see that occasionally you will see pictures of Japanese men marrying their pillow. I forget, there's a special word for that, but they get these anime-style pillow, or they'll marry robots or video game characters, and just this sense of wanting to pass on to complete robotic existence. And what if robots do replace us? Or what if we reach a point where they do just easily live alongside us, and we have to make distinctions between what counts as having rights and having intelligence, and what counts as just being another commodity, just another machine. I mean, what has feeling? Who among us really feels anything? These are some heavy thoughts that are just bubbling around in my head, Anyway, robots haven't taken over yet.